Welcome to the SIWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with one of our new guest hosts, Chris Chan, and he comes to us with a background in accounting and also cybersecurity, and then also as a bit of job search specialist. So, Chris, if you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, and then we'll probably roll back into time and get a little bit about what was Chris like growing up. So, Chris, what are you up to now?
Right, for sure. Yeah, so I would say I kind of wear multiple hats right now. Like you mentioned, right? Cyber, a bit of career coaching as well. So right now I'm at RBC as a senior manager in cybersecurity and IT infrastructure audits. So really, reviewing IT cyber risk and controls and seeing if they're adequate to address risks. At the same time, I have two startups. One is called Technology Accountant, which is a online course creator and content. So videos about cybersecurity, IT, artificial intelligence, a bit of career as well. The other one is UProtege, where I do career coaching one-to-one sessions with new grads, students, experienced hires, and so forth. So that's kind of what I'm doing a lot in my spare time. But these are the things I'm doing so far.
Perfect. So if we can go back in time, and if I can ask, what was Chris like as a kid? So what are some of the earliest, fondest memories that you have? Were you more of a sporty guy, a bookish guy, or artsy guy, or something else?
Right. It's kind of mixed. For sure, I think I was shy. I wasn't really confident, but at the same time, I was a bit more artsy. In the sense where I love drawing, designing things. In fact, I actually made websites and graphic designs at a very young age, right? Back in elementary schools and a bit of high school, where I created websites, for online games and things like that. So tech and arts was kind of in my bucket. In terms of books and sciences or accounting, things like that. I wasn't actually smart academically in those areas, but surprisingly, during university, I did specialize in accounting afterwards. So it's kind of a neat twist there. Yeah.
Yeah, and how did that decision come? So you grew up as more of a design, artsy type kid, and you probably played games and stuff like that. Where did the draw to accounting come from? I'm guessing from mom and dad, or the culture, that sort of thing. It's pretty stereotypical on the Asian side. But how did you make the decision to go into school and kind of specialize in accounting?
Yeah. So when I guess it kind of started when I was in university. A lot of my friends and classmates were all really taking accounting, and at that time I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to. I was thinking of doing marketing actually, but everyone else is kind of doing accounting, the events, the teachers, and things like that. It was heavily, I guess, pushed onto us. At that point I didn't really mind taking anything, but eventually, as I took more courses with my friends, my classmates, I realized that, hey, accounting isn't too bad. In fact, like a lot of the skill sets that you learn are transferable, right? You got the business sense and numbers, but a lot of the other types of skills, like, managing projects, clients, and things like that, when it comes into audits or taxation, things like that, that kind of strategic sense comes into play. So that's why I kind of stuck into accounting in my university days.
Cool. So you go through your university career and do accounting, but you landed in consulting when you graduate. So how does that happen?
Yeah. So my first job was in consulting, and in fact, a lot of my experience back in the day as a co-op was also in IT. So
okay.
I had 2 out of the 3 co-ops was in IT. One was in IT consulting. One was also in IT auditing. So a lot of this IT stuff, like I mentioned, kind of went back in time. If I was, in my elementary years, I was creating websites, designing things. And, when I joined university, I started managing websites, right, for different student clubs. And at the same time, my co-op experiences were all on IT. So I guess that kind of set the foundation. And for me to get that kind of IT technical experience. So when I started applying for graduate jobs, I found that, hey, consulting isn't too bad, right? it's something that touches, the IT space, which I liked. But at the same time, I also got to deal with different projects, different people, clients. So that was kind of the appeal, and that's where I joined Accenture, my first full-time jobs. I was in consulting, designing systems, designing software for various different clients. A little after that, I actually moved into Deloitte, doing risk advisory. So it was kind of slash auditing slash consulting, where we looked into IT controls, risks, and really recommend and provide advice to various clients.
And would you say it's a pretty like straightforward path in terms of, well, you go accounting to consulting, consulting to kind of risk, and then risk ultimately to cyber? Or like what were kind of the key kind of transition points or pivot points along the way that said, you know what, I should go this direction versus that direction? And was it kind of your choice, or is it kind of like you were thrown on a project and you got experience, so therefore now your new life will be in this area?
Yeah, so I would say it's definitely not straightforward, right? They're all different, fields, right? But for me, I think, at that time, right, when I was in consulting, I actually wanted to get my CPA, right? And there was no other way for me to get my CPA. Consulting experiences doesn't provide any of that. At the same time, I was also in tech consulting, so none of that was even relevant or remotely close to accounting. So at one point, I had to make the decision, say, as great as consulting life is, I do have to make the move if I'm planning to get this designation. So that's why I went to Deloitte. And when I went to Deloitte, I obviously wanted something that kind of bridged the gap between, IT and also a bit of the accounting aspect. And that's kind of where the risk advisory department came in. And, risk advisory wasn't just pure IT audits or pure accounting, things like that, but
Right.
there was a mix, a bit of consulting side as to it. So, it so happens that it was kind of like the perfect balance where it allowed me to get the accounting experiences and auditing, but also a bit of, the reminiscence of the IT world. So, during that time, I stayed for a couple of years. I also got my CISA there, so my Certified Information System Auditor certification as well. So, it so happens that that job there bridged the two worlds. And then afterwards, at the time, I'm already too deep into the IT world, right? It's kind of hard for me to kind of go back into finance or pure accounting. So I decided to think, hey, I like IT a lot. Might as well go into something like cybersecurity. So, when I left Deloitte, I went to, TD Bank, went into the cybersecurity and IT infrastructure audit team. So it was a more technical this time because, as much as I did, IT audits or advisory projects at Deloitte, a lot of it was really just at the application and infrastructure level, but it wasn't really at the cybersecurity level. And, when I went in, I had, obviously a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to, catch up on. But eventually, I think it kind of paid off. I did finish my SIP certification last year, and, it's one of those certifications that's big on cybersecurity. So, definitely it's been a journey, right? 3 different fields, not straightforward, but at the same time, I strategically really picked different areas that kind of helped me get the designation experience along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, and then along the way, I think you did a stint. Well, and you were an instructor. Sorry?
Could you repeat that?
Oh, I was saying that along the way, you did a stint as a instructor's assistant, where you were also doing some PA work as well. So kind of in the background, you were always doing that as well?
Yeah, that's right. So, since graduation, right, I've been in touch with the professor for many years, right? So time to time, whenever he has courses, I will become his, sessional instructor assistant. So, marking cases, holding tutorials, things like that for both the undergrad and graduate programs at U of T.
Sounds good. And then how does some of your startups come in? So you are, I think you first started with course and content creation.
Yeah.
And then you went into kind of the UProtege career coaching side of it. So how does the I guess the course creation start?
Yeah, so it actually began last year, around this time, actually, around June, July. At that time, I thought, hey, what exactly can I, create online and kind of make a mark of my own, right? I wanted to kind of build my own brand. So I decided to explore course creation. But before this, even back in my days of being a session instructor assistant, I wanted to actually teach at the university on certain courses like IT or IT audit. But at that time, it needs a lot of approvals, right, for a course to get accepted at university. Probably, we're talking about 5-10 years, right? With approvals, reviews, and all that. And I thought, hey, if I were to make courses, it's going to take quite a long time. So might as well maybe create something online. So, with my passion, with that reason, I decided to, first start off at Udemy. And, it started off at the beginning quite slow, but eventually it's got picked up. I think now it's about almost 21,000 students there. A lot of courses, right? On the cyber, artificial intelligence. Recently, some of the courses are becoming bestsellers or highest rated. So it's been a great journey, right? I slowly saw, it picking up. More students were interested, and that kind of got me motivated to create even more. And on the flip side, in UProtege, for years on LinkedIn, people reached out to me asking for resume tips, cover letter, mock interviews, things like that. I've been doing it freely for a number of years, but at the same time, I wanted to really explore, what happens if I actually create a business out of it. So that's when me and my buddy, sometime earlier this year, again, we just launched UProtege, and so far it's been pretty good. We have recurring students here and there. Right now we're onboarding additional coaches and really trying to expand and run ads or sign up a partnership and deals like that, so that we can actually create our bigger presence.
Yeah. So what is kind of the base stuff that you do? So I know whenever folks come to me for resume guidance and help, I don't really do that. I usually send them over your way, and then helping with CPA exams and stuff like that. So those are some of the other things that you support.
Yeah, that's right. So there's really 3 pillars, right? A lot of them are really tactical. They're not, long-term wise. Like, I think your coaching is more like strategic wise, right? Ours is more kind of short-term, helping people, hey, if you need a job, if you need to transition, or if you're trying to think of career path to go into, right? We're there to coach you into it. So, for example, people that want to go to maybe IT or cybersecurity, right? We have sessions, explaining the background, the field, the pay, the skills needed, what are the things that they can do to bridge the skill sets. At the same time, if they needed to look for jobs, right? As an intern, as a new grad, we redesigned the cover letters, resume, LinkedIn profile, and also do mock interviews. So that's the second pillar. The third is really the CPA one-to-one case writing guides. So, for people that are, pursuing the CPA, writing the CFEs, me and my coaches, we provide, one-on-one trainings to help you, improve your case writing capabilities, right? A lot of these cases in CFE is really tough. So we go through, day 1 to 3, and, we spend a lot of time to really beef up that technical and that mindset to approach it successfully.
Sounds good. So, I mean, it sounds like a pretty straightforward path, but it's probably along the way you were like, well, why do I do this, or should I do this or do that? So what is some of the SIWIKE, the stuff I wish I knew earlier, some of the coaching that you would provide for young Chris, maybe throughout kind of the big decision? So maybe even university, like should you have said, hey, go to marketing instead of the CPA side, or what were some of the other SIWIKE that you'd share with yourself?
Right. I would say probably there's 3, right? One is definitely, maybe starting social media a lot earlier, right? As I'm making these businesses, I realized that, hey, if I start social media earlier, the reach, the influence, the things like that would have been a lot easier. And overall, it's actually, now I'm looking at it, people on TikTok, YouTube, and things like that. I feel like that's kind of like a new trend, right? A lot of the younger generations are, becoming, nano or micro influencers, and it's going to be a very important tool down the road, especially, professionally, but also entrepreneurial types of, deals, right? So having that kind of social media presence is definitely something that I wish I knew earlier, and I wish I should have done earlier. A second bit, I would say probably just, investing, right? Knowing, how to invest, not only financial, but invest in yourself. So, when you're young, right? invest in the different skill sets, right? Whether it's digital skills, right? Additional programming languages, or just marketing capabilities, things like this. Invest in that, but also learning how to invest, through financial assets, equities, and things like that.
Sure.
That would definitely give you a head start. And I would say the third is really venturing on, trying out, creating maybe a business, right? A lot of times when we're business students, we always learn, how do you create a business? How do you manage it? But when you actually begin creating it, it's entirely a different ballgame, right?
Sure.
A lot of different, things that you need to consider. How do you incorporate? How do you do taxes and things like that? It's a little overwhelming at the beginning, but at the same time, I think along the way, the skill sets that I built up, and the support that I also had, definitely helped me along the way.
Yeah, and it sounds like having that accounting background, the CPA, helped you to create and start that business because you knew all kind of the tax implications, or at least you had a good understanding of it.
Right.
And then on the investing, yeah, definitely agree with investing in yourself. So whatever you do, well, I like to tell my kids, like, I don't really care what you do as long as you become like one of the best at whatever it is, right?
Right.
Because when you invest in those skills, people want kind of the really good at something, not the mediocre at everything, right? So the more that you can kind of hone in those skills would be great. And yeah, the social media, I think that's up to each individual person. So obviously, if you're starting a business, it's definitely really important. If you're planning on kind of going the employee route and moving up the ladder, it can definitely be helpful, right? Because to your point, when you get that influence and that reach, and then even using it and leveraging it for like networking and staying connected with friends and old colleagues that might offer you a future job, that sort of thing can be super helpful and interesting as well. And I'd love if, as we start to wrap up the conversation, to share a little bit more about kind of what are your future aspirations. So what do you kind of intend for what you're doing now in terms of cybersecurity, and then obviously with the content and the course creation, and then also with the UProtege, and then maybe there's something else that's in the wings that's also waiting. What are some of the future aspirations that you have?
Right. Definitely, I think professionally, really progressing up the career ladder. Right now I'm a senior manager, so hopefully, maybe a couple of years later down the road, aiming for directorship and things like that. In terms of my businesses, right? Obviously, in terms of content creation, additional students, and also right now I'm building actually a YouTube channel. It's relatively small, but I really started to commit to it. I know years ago, I always tell myself, hey, I want to create a YouTube channel. And in time, I actually, uploaded some videos, but they weren't really true videos per se. So it's only like since the last month I started actually, recording it properly and having actual content there. And another thing is, for UProtege, definitely, right? Training additional coaches, having, expansion of business itself, right? Whether it's, additional students, presence on, partnerships and things like that with other companies. It's something that we're always looking forward to. So, these I would say are the top three things that I kind of want, potentially in the next, maybe coming year or the next couple of years. Yeah.
Sounds good. So, and if folks want to reach out to you and find out a little bit more, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. So, and I think you're going to have it probably maybe in your short description, right? So, my YouTube channel is there. If they're looking for my courses, it's also on Udemy and Skillshare. So, there's links there. You can also reach out to me through LinkedIn, right? Kind of easy to find, Chris Chan. I know there's a million of them, but if you type in, Chris Chan with, CPA or CSET or SIPS, it's probably easy to find me there as well. We also have a company website, www.uprotege.ca. So that's where my other startup is. So yeah, you can check those out if you're interested.
That's great. And hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode to go and do a bit more of a deep dive into some of the transition into the various areas, be it from like accounting to consulting to risk and cybersecurity to starting out and creating content to entrepreneurship and all those great things. So thanks, Chris, for joining us for this episode, and we'll look forward to having you back for a future episode.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Luki.
Thanks for joining us on the SIWIKE, Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Luki Danu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.